The rain came down in sheets that Tuesday evening, turning the Philadelphia streets into rivers of gray. Marcus Webb sat in his car outside the office building, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady his breathing. The meeting had been brutal. 3 weeks, that's all the time they'd given him to turn his numbers around or face termination. 3 weeks to save the job that fed his daughter, kept the roof over their heads, paid for her asthma medication. He didn't start the car, not yet. He just sat there, watching the rain hammer against the windshield, feeling like the water was inside his chest instead of outside the glass. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya, his 9-year-old. "Dad, when are you coming home? I made us sandwiches." Marcus smiled despite everything. That kid. She'd been making him sandwiches since her mother left 2 years ago. Since Jennifer decided that being a wife and mother wasn't the life she'd signed up for. Maya had watched her go without crying, then walked into the kitchen and started learning to cook. 9 years old and already tougher than he'd ever be. He texted back, "On my way, baby girl. Save me the good chips." Marcus pulled out of the parking lot, windshield wipers working overtime. The city looked different in weather like this, softer. Somehow, like all the hard edges were melting away. He took the long route home, needing the extra minutes to put his game face back on. Maya was smart. She'd know something was wrong if he walked through that door, carrying his defeat like a weight. That's when he saw the old man. He was walking along Chestnut Street with no umbrella, no raincoat, just a thin cardigan that was soaked through. He moved slowly, one careful step at a time, using a wooden cane that looked older than the buildings around them. The man couldn't have been younger than 75, maybe 80, and he was alone. Marcus drove past, eyes on the road ahead. "Not your problem," he told himself. "You've got enough on your plate." Maya's waiting, but something made him look in the rearview mirror. The old man had stopped, leaning heavily on his cane, rain pouring down his face. He was trying to wipe his eyes, but the rain kept coming. "Damn it," Marcus muttered and pulled over. He grabbed the umbrella from the passenger seat, the big golf umbrella Maya had given him last Father's Day, covered in terrible jokes she'd written in permanent marker. "Why don't scientists trust atoms?" "Because they make up everything." "What do you call a fake noodle?" "An impasta." Marcus jogged back through the rain. Sir, can I help you?" The old man looked up, and Marcus saw his eyes, pale blue, sharp despite the age in his face. "I seem to have overestimated my abilities today," the man said, his voice steady but tired. "I thought I could make it home before the rain." "Where's home?" Marcus held the umbrella over both of them. "Rittenhouse Square. About 6 blocks that way." He pointed with his cane. "That's on my way." "Come on, I'll drive you." The old man studied him for a moment, water dripping from his white hair. "You don't know me. I could be anyone." Marcus shrugged. "You could be, but you're also wet and cold and a long way from home. My daughter would kill me if she knew I left you here." Something flickered across the old man's face. Amusement, maybe, or recognition of something. "Your daughter sounds wise. She's 9 and she makes better decisions than I do. Come on." Getting the old man into the car took longer than Marcus expected. His movements were stiff, painful. Marcus wondered about arthritis, about how many years this man had walked these streets before age had slowed him down. Once they were both inside, the car felt smaller, more intimate. The windows fogged up almost immediately. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Webb. Theodore Ashford." The old man extended a trembling hand, and Marcus shook it. The grip was surprisingly firm. They drove in silence for a block. Theodore stared out the window at the rain-soaked city. Then he spoke. "You looked troubled when you got out of that car." "Before you saw me." Marcus glanced at him, surprised. "That obvious? I've been reading faces for 50 years. Comes with the territory." "What territory is that?" "Business. Management. The art of understanding what people won't tell." "You." Theodore smiled faintly. "So what won't you tell me, Marcus Webb?" Marcus didn't know why he answered. Maybe it was the rain, the strange intimacy of the moment. Maybe it was because Theodore was a stranger he'd never see again. "I'm about to lose my job. Got 3 weeks to pull off a miracle or I'm out. And I've got a daughter who depends on me for everything." "What do you do?" "Operations manager at Hartwell Manufacturing. We make industrial parts. Exciting stuff." Marcus tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. My numbers have been down 2 quarters in a row. My supervisor thinks I've lost my edge. Have you? The question was direct, no judgment in it. Marcus appreciated that. I don't know. Maybe. After my wife left, I had to cut back my hours to be there for Maya. School pickups, doctor appointments, all of it. I can't travel for site visits like I used to. Can't stay late for every crisis. So yeah, maybe I have lost something. Or maybe you've gained. Something more important and your workplace hasn't figured out how to measure it. Marcus pulled up in front of an elegant brownstone near Rittenhouse Square. The building was old money, the kind of place with a doorman and marble in the lobby. This is you? 43 years in this building. Saw 3 wives come and go, raised 2 sons here, buried one of them. Theodore looked at the building like he was seeing through it to all those years. Home is strange, isn't it? Sometimes a blessing, sometimes a reminder of everything you've lost. Yeah, Marcus said quietly. It is. Theodore turned to him. Thank you for this. You didn't have to stop. My daughter would be proud. Yes. Theodore opened the door, then paused. Marcus, can I tell you something? Please. I've hired hundreds of people in my career. Fired a fair number too. And I learned that the best employees aren't the ones who sacrifice everything for the job. They're the ones who know what matters. Your supervisor is measuring the wrong things. Try telling him that. Perhaps someone should. Theodore stepped out into the rain, then leaned back in. What's your daughter's name? Maya. Tell Maya thank you for the umbrella jokes. They're terrible. She'll be thrilled to hear that. Theodore smiled, a real smile this time, warm and genuine. Then he was gone, disappearing into his building with careful, measured steps. Marcus drove home feeling lighter somehow. He didn't know why. Nothing had changed. His job was still hanging by a thread. His numbers were still bad. His boss was still counting down the days. But something about that conversation, about Theodore's words, had shifted something in his chest. Maya was waiting at the door, sandwich plate in hand. Dad, I used the good mayo this time. He scooped her up, 12 years old and probably too old for this. But she let him anyway. You're the best, you know that? Obviously, she said, grinning. How was work? It was work. But I met someone interesting on the way home. Over sandwiches, and she had used the good mayo. Marcus told her about Theodore. Maya listened with the serious attention she gave to everything, her dark eyes focused on his face. You did a good thing, Dad, she said when he finished. Just gave an old man a ride. No, you saw someone who needed help and you stopped. That's important. She took a bite of her sandwich. Mom wouldn't have stopped. The observation was matter of fact, no bitterness in it, but it landed in Marcus's chest like a stone. Maya! It's okay, Dad. I'm glad you're the one who stayed. He pulled her close. This fierce little person who'd saved him more times than she knew. The next morning, Marcus walked into Hartwell Manufacturing ready for battle. 3 weeks. He could do this. He'd spend every available minute pulling together the numbers, reaching out to clients, finding inefficiencies. He could save this. His supervisor, Craig Donovan, was waiting at his desk. Conference room now. Marcus's stomach dropped. This was it. They weren't even giving him the 3 weeks. They were ending it now. The conference room was on the executive floor, a place Marcus rarely visited. Craig let him in, and Marcus saw immediately that this wasn't a normal meeting. There were 4 people sitting at the table: Patricia Chen from HR, David Okoye, the COO, Sarah Martinez, the CEO, and Theodore Ashford. Marcus stopped in the doorway, his brain short-circuiting. Theodore was wearing an immaculate gray suit, his white hair neatly combed, those pale blue eyes watching Marcus with something that might have been amusement. He looked different here, not like a frail old man in the rain, but like someone who belonged in rooms where decisions were made. Mr. Webb, Sarah Martinez said. Please sit down. Marcus sat, his eyes still on Theodore. The old man gave him the slightest nod. Mr. Webb, Sarah continued, I'd like you to meet Theodore Ashford. Mr. Ashford is the founder and former CEO of Ashford Industries. He retired 12 years ago, but remains our largest single shareholder and serves on our board of directors. The room tilted slightly. Marcus gripped the edge of the table. Last night, Sarah said, Mr. Ashford contacted me with some concerns about our management practices in the operations division, specifically regarding your case. Craig shifted uncomfortably. With all due respect, Mr. Ashford hasn't been involved in day-to-day operations in over a decade, which gives me perspective you lack, Craig. Theodore's voice was the same as it had been in the car, steady, calm, but now carrying an edge of authority. I spent the last 18 hours reviewing Mr. Webb's file. His performance history, his numbers, his team's feedback. His numbers are down, Craig said. 2 quarters. That's our standard. Your standard is flawed. Theodore leaned forward. Marcus's production numbers are down 11%. Do you know why? Reduced hours, less availability for... His team's retention rate is 97% in an industry where 70% is considered good. His safety incident rate is 60% below department average. His quality control scores are the highest in the division. And his team's morale scores, which I note you don't even look at regularly, are exceptional. Theodore opened a folder. I spoke with 6 of his direct reports this morning. Want to know what they said? That Marcus taught them to see problems before they become crises. That he trusts them to make decisions. That when Tom Chen's wife was in the hospital, Marcus covered his shifts without being asked. That when the Riverside plant was hit by that storm last year, Marcus was the first person there and the last one to leave. That's all very nice, Craig said, his voice tight. But production numbers are down because his predecessor, whom you praised extensively, was cutting corners on maintenance and safety protocols to inflate short-term output. Marcus spent the last year fixing those problems before they became catastrophic failures. Did you know we were 3 weeks away from a major equipment failure at Plant 7? A failure that would have cost us $6 million and possibly lives? Marcus caught it. Marcus fixed it. The room was silent. Sarah Martinez was looking at Craig with an expression that made Marcus almost feel sorry for him. Furthermore, Theodore continued, Marcus's numbers are down only if you ignore the fact that he's working 20% fewer hours than his peers due to childcare responsibilities. If you calculate his per-hour productivity, he's actually 30% above department average. Theodore closed the folder and looked directly at Craig. You were about to fire your best operations manager because you were measuring the wrong things, because you value presenteeism over performance, because you can't see past outdated metrics to actual value. Craig's face was red. Mr. Ashford, I understand you have history with this company, but 43 years building it from nothing. Theodore's voice was quiet now, almost gentle. 43 years learning? That the people who make companies great aren't the ones who perform loyalty. They're the ones who perform excellence. Marcus Webb is excellent at his job. The question is whether you're excellent at yours. Sarah Martinez stood up. Thank you, Mr. Ashford. Craig, Patricia, David, stay please. Mr. Webb, you're free to go. And for the record, your job is not in jeopardy. In fact, we'll be discussing a promotion to Regional Operations Director. You'll hear from us by end of week. Marcus stood on shaking legs. He looked at Theodore, who was watching him with those sharp blue eyes. Thank you, Marcus managed to say. Thank you, Mr. Webb, for reminding me what this company was supposed to be about. Marcus walked out of that conference room into a different life. He made it to the bathroom before his legs gave out, sitting in a stall with his head in his hands, trying to breathe through the relief and shock and gratitude that was overwhelming him. That evening, when he picked Maya up from school, he didn't tell her right away. He waited until they were home, until dinner was on the table, takeout. Chinese, because this was a celebration, even if she didn't know it yet. So, he said, watching her expertly use chopsticks while he fumbled with his, remember that old man I helped yesterday? Theodore, Maya said. She remembered everything. Yeah, turns out Theodore is kind of a big deal at my company. Actually, he built my company. Maya looked up, interested now. Really? Really, and today he saved my job. Actually, he did more than that. He made them see things they weren't seeing. About me, about what matters, about how to measure what's important. Because you stopped in the rain, Maya said quietly. Yeah, baby. Because I stopped in the rain? No, Dad. She put down her chopsticks. Her 9-year-old face suddenly serious and wise beyond her years. He didn't save your job because you gave him a ride. He saved it because of who you are. The kind of person who stops. The kind of person who sees people. You would have done that for anyone. Marcus felt his throat tighten. When did you get so smart? I learned from the best. She smiled. That gap-toothed grin that was his favorite thing in the world. So are we celebrating? Because I think this calls for ice cream. It definitely calls for ice cream. Later, after Maya was asleep with her math, homework scattered across her bed, and her retainer lost somewhere in the covers, Marcus sat on their small balcony and looked at the city. Philadelphia sparkled in the distance, full of lights and lives and moments that would change. Everything if you paid attention to them. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your daughter was right about the jokes on the umbrella. Terrible. But I'd like to borrow it sometime, if you don't mind. And Marcus, some of us are still fighting for companies that see people as people, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Thank you for reminding me why that matters. Theodore. Marcus looked at that message for a long time. Then he typed back, the umbrella's yours anytime. And thank you for seeing what I couldn't see in myself. Maya and I are lucky you were walking in the rain. The response came quickly. I was lucky you were the one driving by. Tell your daughter she was right. It's not about stopping once. It's about being the kind of person who would stop every time. You are. Don't forget that. Marcus saved the message. He had a feeling he'd need to read it again someday. When things got hard, when he doubted himself, when the numbers looked bad and the pressure mounted, he'd need to remember this moment. This unlikely salvation that started with nothing more than kindness in the rain. Inside, Maya stirred in her sleep and called out softly. Marcus went to her, tucking the blankets around her small form, moving her math homework carefully to her desk. She'd drawn a picture in the margin of her assignment, a stick figure man with an umbrella standing in the rain, helping another stick figure man with a cane. He kissed her forehead. You're the best thing I ever did, he whispered. Outside, the city hummed with its million stories, its countless moments of connection and grace and chance. And somewhere in a brownstone in Rittenhouse Square, an old man who had built empires looked at the rain against his window and remembered what it felt like to be seen, to be helped, to matter to a stranger for no reason other than kindness. The rain had brought them together, but it was who they were, both of them, that had changed everything. 3 months later, Marcus would take the regional director position. 5 years after that, when Theodore passed away at 83, Marcus would learn that the old man had left a college fund for Maya in his will, with a note, for the girl who taught her father to stop, for the future she made possible. But that night, sitting in his apartment with his daughter, sleeping safe and his job secure, and his heart full, Marcus Webb understood what Theodore had tried to tell him in the car. Home wasn't strange. Life was strange. But if you paid attention to the moments that mattered, if you stopped when stopping was needed, if you chose kindness when kindness was hard, then strangeness became grace, and grace became everything. The umbrella with Maya's terrible jokes sat by the door, waiting for the next rain.